Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Investor More, and I am outside my neighbor's property, which is currently for sale. We're going to walk through it, but unfortunately, he passed away, had quite a few issues. He broke into my property once, but actually a pretty nice person, had a lot of dogs, a lot of different things going on. But we're going to show you what this property looks like and talk about how much it's for sale, and also talk about some of our interactions with Billy, how things went, and kind of do a throwback to when I first met Billy. So I'm going to go back to an older video and kind of show you my first interactions and how things went, and then we'll show you this property, which is a crazy property, and talk a little bit about it as well. This is also the property where the county is mad at me for renting to a church. I'll have an update on that and talk about what the county said about this property too, because they did discuss things with me about Billy and his property, and I chose a path probably different than they wanted me to choose, but I had my reasons for that, and we'll talk about that here as well. Okay, so we were told that somebody was in this building, the garage door was wide open, and that there was water flooding all over. Hey, what's going on?
Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you?
You're Mark.
Yes.
I'm really sorry.
So that was Billy, and he had broken in because he said he was too hot, his dogs needed water. He had turned on the water in another building and flooded it. We'll show that in a second. But he was always a pretty nice guy. He had a litter of pit bulls that he'd raised, and we tried to help him out as much as we could. So I did call the police that day because we were worried about his health, because he said he couldn't walk, he couldn't move, and we didn't really call the police, we called EMS. They came over, got him over to his place. We went over, bought a bunch of dog food, bought him a bunch of food, and so we tried to help out as much as we could. And he didn't leave a huge mess here. He might have torn out some of the insulation on the garage door, but this is the space we later rented to a church, which caused all kinds of drama as well with the county. So apparently there's a site plan that said this could only be a grocery store, not a church, and we rented to a church. It made it an illegal tenant, and we've been dealing with the county since then. I've been working to get the site plan revised, and the engineers actually last week had messaged me and said they've got most of their work done. So we are making progress. We'll have an update there. We've told the church they can't stay. Their lease is up at the end of December, so they'll be moving on, and then we'll have to go from there. They wanted a different space anyway. This is not a long-term space for them, just kind of a temporary one. But it's been an interesting property, to say the least. Looks a lot different now, but this is what it looked like when I first bought it. And the county gave me all kinds of issues about building permits and codes and different things, and we let them walk through it and see everything, and they actually said everything was fine. And so, except for the church being there legally, the diesel mechanic moved in next door. That was fine. We had an auto detail place over there. That was fine. And we got another kind of mechanic moved in who's got a bunch of cars out there that may or may not be for sale, but we've seen nothing sell or move or have any for sale signs. So that's another story. But the whole Billy situation was tough. And it was a hard situation because I know he had a real hard life and a hard time with things. He mentioned to us a lot of health problems, different things going on with him. I don't want to get too personal on all kinds of stuff. I didn't want to, show a bunch of our conversations or anything like that. But it is just a tricky situation. And it was also tricky with the county too, because when I had a lot of my meetings with the county about this property, and they're talking about how it's illegal to have a church here, even though we'd cleaned up the property, made it look so much better, and put a lot of work and money into it. We had mentioned, hey, this property next door where Billy was living, what's going on with it? It's completely trashed. Someone's, living there. I don't even know if I brought it up or they brought it up. And basically the county said, well, if someone complains to us, then we can get Billy out of there. We can give them a bunch of warnings and code violations and all of that stuff and clean that property up. And they claim they could do that with my property because they were watching my YouTube videos, not because anybody complained about it, but because they basically made a self-complaint because of my videos. So, and here's the water that came out all the way from the building because he turned the water on in one of the buildings and left it on. And he said it wasn't him and he didn't do it, but I mean it's pretty obvious who did it since he was in one of the other buildings. But I kept my mouth shut. I never said a word to the county. I didn't think, they needed to be butting into the other person's business as a property owner. And so I never even mentioned that at all in any of my previous videos, anything else dealing with the county or talking about it on YouTube, because I didn't want somebody else to, call the county or tell the county or file a complaint against him either. So this is the first time I mentioned that story. Now that he's gone and the property's for sale, it doesn't matter anymore. But just interesting how governments and different things work in that regard. So yeah, we did have to clean up a lot of this, but again, this is before anybody moved in. The property was vacant, and when we cleaned it up, it actually made the floor a lot cleaner. So we did spend some money on our water bill. And we talked to Billy. Every time I saw Billy, we'd either buy him some dog food or give him a little bit of money and try and help him out. And he really was super nice. Said he'd keep an eye out on the property. I don't know, if he really did or not, or if we needed him to, but he did talk to us all the time. And people asked, had mentioned, man, it's too bad he was so young. And he could have been 40. He could have been 65. It was really hard to tell how old he was. But and he had, like I said, a lot of dogs. A whole litter of pit bulls. There's the water pouring out. And at one point, one of them did almost attack me. Not quite. He was loose, and he was not real happy. But he didn't do anything. But I was slightly worried there for a little bit. But the county did take all of his pit bulls except for one. Because I think there were quite a few were malnourished. They weren't being taken care of as good as they should have been. So, and it's funny. He said, yeah, one of my bucket lists was to have a litter to breed pit bulls. So I got that marked off my list. So at least he got that done. But we'll take a look at his property and what it looks like right now. And this is how I knew something had happened, because we were driving over by the property and there were people cleaning out the place. I stopped, talked to them, and that's when they told me that he'd passed away. And I don't know how or where or why or what happened. I do know they're there for close to a week cleaning out this property. I did not take any pictures or videos of it before it was cleaned out. It was not nice at all. They took a few dumpster loads of stuff out, including some jugs of liquid, which I'll let your imagination decide what they were, but here's what the property looked like. And this was actually, if you believe it or not, an engineer's office about 5 years ago. And ironically, the same engineer's office who is doing my new site plan revision for the other property. Now, the head engineer who owned the building in the office, I think either he passed away or disappeared or something crazy happened there too. And this property was sold at a tax sale for very cheap. And the current engineer firm, those guys worked for that person and kind of started their own firm. So it was like a continuation of the firm, but not with that head person. But with that tax sale, I think someone bought it really cheap from the tax sale and then just let Billy live here for free. That's all I don't think he paid rent. I don't think he could pay rent. I know he had no water. I know he had no heat. There's no furnace in here. And they just let him live here. And then as soon as he was gone, they cleaned it up a little bit and put it back up for sale. I will say it did not smell particularly good in there at all. We smelled some bad properties. I don't mean like it smelled like animal feces and urine and stuff. So it was an interesting place. And you won't believe how much it's for sale for. At the end, I'll tell you that. That's a little bit interesting too. But you can see it kind of had a bathroom. This is back to the front. I forgot to take a video of this side. I didn't even realize it. Over here was a multiplication table. But here's your kitchen right over here. So it did have a kitchen, sort of a bathroom, no heat, no water. And like I said, it was an engineer's office. It's zoned commercial, so nobody's supposed to be living there. Like I said, if someone would have complained about Billy living there to the county, they probably could have evicted him or kicked him out. I don't know if they would have or not, but they could have. But being zoned commercial, it's got a pretty small lot, pretty small building. It's hard to say what this place is worth, but it might work for some kind of small office. There's really not a way to get to the back for storage or anything, or driving cars or anything without going through my property. So that makes it kind of tricky. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of space over here, but it's not set up well. And you can see they didn't do an amazing job of trashing it out either. That was his truck, which he never did get running. Maybe there's room on the side there to drive cars back there. But it's an interesting property. And ironically, I think I actually tried to buy this property like 7 or 8 years ago. Maybe it wasn't that long ago. Maybe it's 5 or 6 years ago. It was for sale for $100,000 or $90,000. And that must have been before the tax sale thing. And I tried to set up a showing. The agent wouldn't call me back, wouldn't let me set up a showing. I even sent them an offer without seeing it, which I'm probably pretty glad I didn't get it, but sent them an offer, no response. No response from the agent, no acknowledgement of getting it, no return of emails, no return of calls, nothing at all. So there are some good agents out there, and there are some not so good agents out there, that is for sure. And this is kind of a carport thing. Again, nothing's in very good shape. A lot of this kind of just needs torn out. And again, it's the way it's set up, the long, skinny, narrow lot. It's tricky to know what you would do with it. And it's also tricky for me to understand the price they put on this property too. So if you're wondering, I did a poll on this property and asked if you thought it'd be below 50,000. There's my property over there. 50 to 100,000, 100 to 200,000, 200 to 300,000, over 300,000. I think 100 to 200,000 won. Now, yes, a water tap is worth 80,000 or more in this area in Colorado, so that's got some value. Commercial lot has got some value. But I guess there is room to drive a car along the side. Okay, maybe that makes it a little bit more valuable. You can drive cars along that fenced area and back through here. But they are asking $340,000 for this property. So based off that math, I'm pretty sure my property next door is worth about $10 million. Now, my property, I don't know what that's from, 152 acres for sale. I didn't notice that sign when I was doing my video. My property next door, I bought for $865,000. We've done some work, got some tenants in there. I'd estimate it's probably worth $1.5 million now, maybe a little more, once we get all this county stuff taken care of. But this is going to be for sale for a very, 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 very long time if they keep that price on it. So my estimate is it's worth probably somewhere around $100,000. Had to guess. So rest in peace, Billy. Nikki and I kind of worried about this quite a few times. She's my project manager when we drive by this property, go here, work on it, if we were going to find something, or if Billy was still around, just because he had some issues. Obviously had some issues when he was in my property, and a lot of struggles. So that's the property. That's kind of the short update on my property. We'll see what happens next door. I have no desire to buy that property, even at a very cheap price. So we'll see who else picks it up if and when that happens. And if something cool turns into that or happens in that building, we'll of course show that as well. All right, thanks for watching. We'll have more updates on our flips, rentals, businesses, all that stuff coming up.